In the mid-1970s, a man reads a slim little paperback that promises him a secret. Open a savings account in Mexico, and instead of earning 5.5% like every sucker back home, he'll earn 12%, tax-free because Mexican banks, wink wink, don't report to the IRS. The book even brags that the peso has been pegged to the dollar for 21 years. Rock solid. He takes the plunge. For 18 months, he's the smartest guy at every dinner party, flashing his 12% while everyone else is bragging about a free clock radio from their bank. Then, one September, Mexico lets the peso float. Overnight, it drops 25%. Within days, 40%. 6 weeks later, it's down 52%. Billions of American dollars gone because 8 cents on the page said guaranteed. That story opens Andrew Tobias's The Only Investment Guide You'll Ever Need, and it sets the tone for the entire book. This isn't a book that promises to make you rich. It's a book that promises to keep you from getting fleeced, and then, almost as an afterthought, shows you the handful of boring, unsexy habits that actually do build wealth over a lifetime. Tobias, a Harvard MBA who spent decades writing about money for New York Magazine and Forbes, has one central joke running through the whole book. The more excited a financial pitch makes you, the more careful you should be. He also opens with a wider lens on the economy itself. National debt, interest rates, the long stretches of history where the financial tide was either quietly rising in investors' favor or grinding against them. His point isn't to make you a macroeconomist. It's to remind you that some decades are simply easier to invest in than others. So a strategy that worked brilliantly for your parents might need patience, not panic, when applied to your own. Let's get into it. Part 1. Why this book won't make you rich. Tobias opens by admitting something almost no financial author admits. His book will not make you rich. Books that promise riches are, in his words, frauds. Books that focus narrowly on one hot strategy, gold, commodities, some obscure real estate trick, only teach you how to play a game, never whether you should be playing it at all. And encyclopedic guides with a chapter on everything just dump the decision back in your lap. His real insight is subtler and more radical. Unlike cooking or chess, investing doesn't reward more study. Read 3 good investment guides instead of one, and your results won't triple. They probably won't even improve. Beyond a certain basic literacy, more research mostly just tempts you into overconfidence, trading, and fees. The skill isn't picking winners. It's refusing to be picked off. A penny saved is 2 pennies earned. Before Tobias ever talks about stocks, he spends real time on something far less glamorous. Not spending money in the first place. His logic is simple but easy to forget. A dollar saved is worth more than a dollar earned because the saved dollar is already after tax. Earning an extra dollar might net you 60 or 70 cents after the government takes its cut. A dollar you don't spend is a dollar you keep whole. So he goes chapter and verse through the small leaks. Refinancing debt, negotiating insurance, buying things by the case the way you buy toilet paper in bulk, even locking in a 3-year magazine or insurance rate instead of paying year by year, because the math on that investment often works out to a guaranteed, tax-free return in the double digits. He walks through building your credit score deliberately, paying cards off in full, staying under 30% of your limit. Because a low FICO score isn't just an inconvenience, it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars in extra mortgage interest over the life of a loan. None of it is exciting. All of it, compounded over a life, is worth more than most people's stock picks. Then comes the actual planning. Get a legal pad or open mint. Tally your net worth. Everything you own, minus everything you owe. Set a goal for a year from now, then 5 years from now. It's not really a budget, Tobias says. It's a plan, and the budget is just the mechanism. Trust no one, and the case for cowardice. Here's where Tobias gets pointed. Life insurance salesmen, brokers on commission, financial advisors who only sell products from one shelf. Almost everyone you'll meet in the personal finance world is paid more when you do something, not when you do nothing. So his advice is blunt. Trust no one completely. Always ask who's getting paid and how much, and be deeply suspicious of anyone urging urgency. This leads into what he calls the case for cowardice, and it's one of the most important ideas in the book. Before you own a single share of stock, get your financial house boringly, unglamorously safe. Pay off high-interest credit card debt before you invest a dime. No stock market strategy reliably beats 18 or 20% guaranteed interest because that's what you're earning by eliminating that debt. Build an emergency cushion. Get adequate, not excessive, insurance. Only after that foundation is solid does it make sense to take on stock market risk. Cowardice, in Tobias's telling, isn't weakness. It's sequencing. Tax strategies. The return nobody brags about. Tobias spends a full chapter on something most people find boring precisely because it doesn't feel like investing, taxes, but he argues that minimizing what you legally hand over to the government is one of the few guaranteed, risk-free returns available to anyone. Maxing out tax-advantaged accounts like 401k, and IRAs before putting $1 into a regular taxable brokerage account isn't a preference. It's close to a mathematical no-brainer, since it's the difference between investing pre-tax dollars that compound tax-deferred and investing dollars the IRS has already taken a bite out of. He also walks through the logic of tax loss harvesting, deliberately selling a losing investment to offset gains elsewhere, the same trick he used decades earlier with his battered Con Edison shares, selling the ones bought highest first to bank the loss. None of this requires predicting the market. It just requires paperwork and patience, which by now should sound like the theme of the entire book. Part 2. The stock market and why it humiliates experts. Now the book turns to the market itself, and Tobias's core message is almost anticlimactic. Nobody reliably knows where it's going next, including the experts on television. He walks through decades of famously wrong calls from famously confident forecasters and quotes market analyst Martin Zweig's counterintuitive observation. The stock market historically does its best when corporate earnings are getting crushed, and its worst when earnings are soaring. Why? Because markets move on surprise, not on facts everyone already expects. By the time business looks good is the headline, that good news is already priced in, and the seeds of the next downturn are usually already planted. This is why Tobias is deeply skeptical of market timing, deciding to jump in or out based on gut feeling about where things are headed. He compares speculative trading to a day at the racetrack. Exciting, occasionally profitable for a lucky few, but a losing game overall once you account for the house's cut, in this case, trading costs and taxes. He points out that even professionals who study markets full-time can't consistently call the top or the bottom. The 1987 crash, the 2008 collapse, every panic in between, the loudest, most confident voices in the room were routinely wrong in both directions, telling people to sell right before rallies and buy right before further drops. If the experts with Bloomberg terminals and PhDs can't time it reliably, the amateur checking stock prices on a lunch break certainly can't either. Instead, he champions two unglamorous disciplines. First, diversify over time rather than investing a lump sum all at once. What's known as dollar cost averaging, feeding money into the market on a steady schedule, so you automatically buy more shares when prices are low and fewer when they're high. He tells the story of his own painful experience buying Con Edison stock as it fell from $20 a share down to $6, doubling and tripling down along the way. A strategy that eventually worked out, but only because that particular company survived. Many companies don't, which is exactly why his second discipline matters even more. Own the whole haystack, not the needle. Broad index funds and diversified mutual funds, held cheaply and patiently, beat almost all professional stock pickers over long stretches of time, largely because of one unsexy variable: fees. A fund charging 1 or 2% a year doesn't sound like much until you watch it quietly eat a third of your lifetime returns. Choosing, and mostly ignoring, your broker. Tobias's advice on brokers is refreshingly deflating. For most people, a full-service broker charging hefty commissions to actively manage your money isn't worth it because their advice, on average, doesn't outperform a cheap index fund. It just costs more. His answer is discount brokers, low-cost index funds, and a healthy dose of doing nothing. He's also blunt about so-called hot tips and insider information. By the time a can't-miss tip reaches you at a dinner party, dozens of people heard it before you. And if it's genuinely inside information, trading on it is not just unwise, it's illegal. The lesson repeats: excitement is a warning light, not a green light. Part 3. Family, kids, and what happens when you're gone. The book's final stretch turns surprisingly warm. Tobias offers real, specific ways to teach children about money, not by paying them for chores, since he argues allowance and chores should be separate. Work around the house is a family responsibility, while allowance is a chance to practice managing money. He shares a reader's story of a father who gave his 16-year-old a modest inheritance to buy 20 shares of McDonald's stock. The boy watched it split again and again, and years later sold it to make the down payment on his first house. It's one of the most human moments in an otherwise numbers-heavy book, a small act of trust compounding into a lifelong habit. For couples, married or not, his advice is equal parts financial and emotional. Have a will, no matter how young or informal your relationship, because without one, an unmarried partner can legally end up with nothing. Set up a healthcare proxy, a living will, and if wealth is unequal between partners, get real advice about the gift tax consequences of moving money between you. Then comes the chapter with the darkly funny title, You're Dead. Why didn't you read this first? Tobias walks through what actually happens to your money after you die. Probate, estates, executors, and makes the case that a little unglamorous paperwork, now a will, a beneficiary designation, a living trust, saves your family months of legal headaches and often a great deal of money later. He closes this section with guidance for anyone who suddenly inherits real money. The number one rule is to do nothing dramatic for 6 months to a year. Park it somewhere safe. Resist every broker who suddenly wants to be your best friend, and only then make deliberate, unhurried decisions. It's the same lesson from the Mexican peso story, just told in reverse. The danger isn't only in chasing a hot opportunity, it's in making any big financial decision while you're emotionally vulnerable, whether that's grief, excitement, or fear. The appendixes, Tobias at his most playful. The back of the book is where Tobias really lets his personality loose. A wine investment story where he claims a modest return of 177% on Bordeaux bought young and held. Practical worksheets for figuring out exactly how much life insurance you actually need, rather than however much a salesperson wants to sell you. A plain English walkthrough of Social Security. And a section of cocktail party financial quips designed to make you sound smart without actually having to be a genius. Because, as the whole book has argued, you don't need to be. Strip away the decades of updated statistics and pop culture references, and the only investment guide you'll ever need boils down to a handful of unglamorous truths. Spend less than you earn. Get out of debt before you invest. Don't trust anyone who's in a hurry to sell you something. Buy broad and cheap rather than clever and expensive, and leave your money alone long enough for time to do the actual work. It's not a thrilling philosophy, but as that Mexican peso investor learned the hard way, thrilling is usually exactly what you should be running from. If this summary saved you a few very expensive mistakes, that's the whole point. Now go build that boring, beautiful net worth. Pay off the credit card. Automate a little money into a broad index fund every month. Write the will you've been putting off. None of it will make a good story at a dinner party. But 40 years from now, it's the story that gets a happy ending. While the guy chasing 12% in Mexican pesos is still telling everyone it was unlucky timing. See you in the next one.